The unidentified flying objects do not only look like a sphere or like glowing fog. They have clear outlines like technical objects of earthly origin.
Cosmogenic type.
Americans have always been interested in Germany's technological and magical heritage.
There can be no doubt.
But then something completely inexplicable happened. An Antarctica expedition, planned for half a year, was abruptly ended after 2 months, and removed so quickly that one can only speak of a flight.
At the beginning of the year 1947, the legendary American polar explorer Richard Byrd undertook his 4th and final research trip to Antarctica, an expedition that is significantly different from all previous ones. It is funded by the US military and is known as Operation High Jump.
Admiral Byrd had a powerful US military fleet at his disposal. An aircraft carrier, 12 warships, a submarine, over 20 aircraft and helicopters, as well as 5,000 crew members. A remarkable composition for an allegedly scientific expedition.
Before his departure, Richard Byrd announced to the press on December 2nd, 1946.
My journey has a military character.
He did not elaborate on further details.
Confirmed.
At the end of January 1947, the aerial reconnaissance of the Antarctic continent began near the area known as Queen Maud Land.
Initially, everything went according to plan. The land was explored and tens of thousands of photos were taken. But then something extremely puzzling happened. The research expedition, initially planned for 6 months, was abruptly ended after just 2 months. Aborted. The circumstances of the sudden end are still unclear to this day and are very reminiscent of an escape.
A torpedo boat was destroyed and several aircraft were lost. Dozens of soldiers and officers fell. After his return, Byrd explicitly told the members of the Extraordinary Government Commission, in the event of another war, can America be attacked by an enemy capable of flying from one pole to another with incredible speed?
Who and what caused the great American fleet to flee? A look back. In the summer of 1945, 1.5 years before the Berlin expedition, in the Argentine port of Mar del Plata, the German submarines surrendered, U-530 and U-977.
Unusual boats from the so-called Führer convoy, a highly secret formation whose exact duties are unclear to this day.
Since the boat crews remained silent about their tasks, the Americans could only learn a few details.
The commander of the submarine U-530 is said to have talked about an operation codenamed Valkyrie II. As part of this operation, his ship left Kiel for Antarctica 2 weeks before the war ended. Among the passengers, there were individuals with their faces covered. In addition, important documents from the Third Reich were on board.
The commander of U-977, Heinz Schäfer, confirmed that he had taken the same route with his submarine shortly after. In the course of their research, the Americans noticed that evidently numerous German submarines had headed towards Antarctica during the war. What was the reason for these journeys? What was so special about Antarctica? The Antarctica. In 1820, the German Baltic officer Fabian Gottlieb von Bellingshausen sailed around the world, and his commander Michael Lazarev saw the Antarctic mainland for the first time. a mysterious continent that magically attracted researchers. But towering walls of ice made Antarctica, which is larger than all of Europe, inaccessible for a long time. Despite various attempts, the interior of the northern ice region remained unexplored for nearly a century. Maps from this time therefore only document the continent's coastline. At the start of the 20th century, Germany also showed interest in the distant and hostile continent of ice. Significant financial resources were allocated to carry out various expeditions.
At the end of the 1930s, the experienced polar captain Alfred Richter sailed aboard the specially modified ship Schwabenland for this expedition to Antarctica.
From mid-January 1939, 2 airplanes that could be launched from the Schwabenland using special catapults began their mission, the exploration of the Arctic continent. During their flights, the pilots also dropped aluminium rods with swastika flags. With these, they declared the surveyed area as German imperial territory. The newly marked territory, which was about the size of Germany at the time, was named New Swabia. In April 1939, Alfred Richter was able to report.
I have completed the task Marshal Goering assigned to me. For the first time, German aircraft flew over the Arctic continent. Every 25 kilometers, our aircraft dropped flags. We marked an area of about 600,000 square kilometers. Of that, 350,000 square kilometers were photographed.
Hermann Göring's aviators had completed their tasks satisfactorily. Following this action, further orders were given to Karl Dönitz, the commander-in-chief of the German submarine force. But what his men were supposed to do in the Arctic remains a mystery to this day. It is confirmed that from then on, German submarines headed towards Antarctica in increased numbers to fulfill the taken-over tasks that remain secret to this day. In this context, 2 statements by Karl Dönitz are still controversial today. The first goes,
"My submarine crew discovered a real earthly paradise."
The second statement from Dönitz in the year 1943, at the height of the German-Russian War, is no less mysterious.
It goes like this.
The German submarine fleet can take pride in having built an impregnable fortress at the other end of the world for the leader.
Back then, only a few insiders knew what Dönitz was talking about. Only today is it becoming clearer what his hints might have been aiming at. Recently, within the kilometer,